Hey guys, today we have three very popular phones with us today. The Xiaomi Mi4i, the Yureka and the Asus Zenfone 2. If you're wondering why the Yureka is in this comparison, you're probably in for a big surprise by the end of this video. So let's get on it. To start it off, the Yureka and the Zenfone 2 are quite a bit larger than the Mi4i due to their 5.5-inch screens in comparison to Mi4i's 5-inch screen. The Mi4i is really comfortable to hold in one hand, and personally I love the material used on the back as well. The matte finish looks good and feels great in the hand. The Zenfone 2, due to its larger body, isn't as comfortable to hold as the Mi4i, but the curved back helps quite a bit. It's definitely the sturdier of the three phones. I mean, if I had to choose one of these as a weapon, it'd be the Zenfone 2. Lastly, the Yureka's build, which is great for its price, isn't really as exciting to use as the Mi4i or the Zenfone 2. That said, there is a leather case option which I think would help its case. Aside from that, the Zenfone 2 has the worst button placements of the three phones. The buttons at the back are almost impossible to use with the case on, and the power button is out of reach way at the top. While I can deal with the power button on top, I'm not really fond of the volume key placements, though some people have found it convenient, so it's probably a personal choice. The Yureka has very sensitive volume buttons, so you might run the risk of turning the volume up or down quite easily in your pocket or while gaming. Finally, the Mi4i, it's great to use and even the button placements are great. If anything, the power button feels a bit stiff at times, but that's about all the complaints I have here. Moving on to the display, the Yureka is at its disadvantage due to its 720p display compared to the 1080p display on the Mi4i and the Zenfone 2. While the higher resolution has no noticeable impact while going through the home screen or browsing the web, the difference was quite clear while playing a game of Asphalt, wherein the cars in the Mi4i and Zenfone 2 were a lot sharper than on the Yureka. The difference is also noticeable while seeing 1080p pics on the phone, though scrutinizing it so much is something most people wouldn't do normally. When it comes to colors, the IPS display on all three don't disappoint, but the Zenfone 2 definitely has the best colors of the three. The Mi4i has a very saturated display that might appeal to most in first glance, but the excess saturation causes detail to be lost, like the red plants in the Mi4i are just a mush compared to the detail on the Zenfone 2. The Yureka handles itself just fine in this segment. Coming to the viewing angles, all three phones have great viewing angles, though I noticed that the Yureka has a slight bluish tinge when seen from the side angles. This honestly shouldn't bother most, but it's worth mentioning the same. The one place where the Yureka has a clear lead is the brightness level, where the Yureka is definitely the brightest of the three phones, followed by the Zenfone 2 and finally the Mi4i. While all three phones are usable under sunlight, having a Yureka when outdoors means no squinting whatsoever. Next, the camera. All three cameras perform really well in daylight, and it's hard to spot much difference in any of the shots. The Zenfone 2 does have some white balance issues though. It feels like the camera is tuned for low light and tends to add extra exposure to every image. The Yureka also has certain white balance issues at times, but nothing as notable as the Zenfone 2. When it comes to details in the images, the Zenfone 2 is incredible. Like this shot of the mousepad where you can actually see the braiding, the Yureka follows up, but it's not as detailed as the Zenfone 2. And lastly, the Mi4i, which isn't bad, but it doesn't capture as much details. It is also handicapped as it's incapable of taking close-up shots, which is disappointing as the Zenfone 2 and the Yureka go much closer. In the low-light performance, the Zenfone 2 shots are incredible. There is a lot of detail and less noise, and it's really good in comparison to the Mi4i and the Yureka. The Yureka is second as it manages more detail with less noise, and the Mi4i, while it takes decent shots, isn't as good as the Yureka or the Zenfone 2. While the shots taken with flash were equally good on the Mi4i and Yureka, the Zenfone 2 actually fell behind in this. It lacks detail and the flash is just off, and a couple of shots were even unfocused. One last thing to be mentioned is that the Zenfone 2 takes more time to process each shot in comparison to the Yureka and the Mi4i. The Mi4i and Yureka are instantaneous in comparison to the Zenfone 2. This didn't bother me, but it's worth mentioning. Overall, the Zenfone 2 camera has great potential, and honestly, it's a very good camera, but it faces some serious white balance issues now and then, which hampers an otherwise great experience. The Yureka is probably the middle child among the three. The experience isn't as smooth as the Mi4i, but the image quality is mostly better than the Mi4i. The Mi4i has good colors, but it's not the best in detail or low light, and honestly the fact that it cannot focus in close ranges is quite disappointing. Next, the gaming performance. While all three phones handle gaming just fine, the Zenfone 2 was the smoothest among the three, which isn't all that surprising considering the superior graphics on the phone, but it should be noted that the difference is honestly quite minimal. While in most cases the high resolution makes almost no impact to me, the difference between the 1080p displays of the Mi4i and the Zenfone 2 over the 720p display of the Yureka is quite noticeable here. The cards were sharper and overall things felt more high quality. While the bigger screen of the Zenfone 2 makes for a great gaming experience, the same cannot be said for the Yureka. I mean, the bigger screen is nice, but I personally like the sharper screen of the Mi4i over the Yureka. Coming to day-to-day performance, I found that all three phones were incredibly smooth. Sure, there were occasional hiccups, but overall all three phones are smooth and there really isn't much to complain about here. While all three phones have 2GB RAM, the Yureka had almost 1.2 to 1.4GB free in most situations, while the Mi4i and Zenfone 2 were always around the 600 to 800MB free range. Sometimes they even dropped lower. While the UI of the Zenfone 2 is nice at times, and some might say the UI is pleasing on the eyes, I wasn't a really big fan of the big icons, but I can see it appealing to some. The biggest gripe with the Zenfone is the amount of bloat it had. So many apps which will never be used by most people are pre-installed and can't be removed unless you root it. On the other hand, the Mi4i has a more minimalistic approach, which I slightly preferred, but it has its own set of problems. The app launched a bit slower and at times it tended to be sluggish. Overall, I preferred the Yureka's interface, which was the cleanest of the three, sticking to the mostly stock features with some added features and good customizability. Coming to the battery life, the Zenfone 2 and Mi4i were almost equal in my tests, with the Yureka performing a tad worse. But this could be because the Yureka is a much brighter display, and since in my test I ran all three phones at 100% brightness, I think reducing the brightness a bit should ideally bring it to the same level. Overall, all three phones will last you a day for sure, and if you're a casual user, you should face next to no problems with battery life. For those of you who wish to be able to swap your batteries, the Mi4i and Zenfone 2 are non-replaceable, while the battery is replaceable on the Yureka. Storage is another area where the Mi4i falls behind. While all three phones offer 16GB internal storage, the Mi4i does not offer a microSD slot, which is something the other two phones offer. Coming to call quality, the Mi4i was the clearest of the three, though the difference wasn't all that much. The Yureka did have a tad worse off reception in comparison. Speaker quality was average on all three, though I felt the Mi4i was a tad louder. Take a look. One major thing to consider is that while all three phones did get warm while gaming and browsing the web using 3G, the Mi4i got quite a bit hotter in all conditions. It also got warm during the operation of the camera over long periods, which the other phones did not. Overall, the Zenfone 2 is a remarkable phone at a really good price point. It has a great camera, good display, powerful processor and good battery life. The Mi4i has the best 100 usage, which means a lot, but the camera isn't the best. And while the battery and the performance is good, the phone tends to get quite warm easily. The Yureka is the underdog here. Considerably cheaper, it is surprising how well it handles against these two flagships. If it had a 1080p display, the Yureka would easily be better than the Mi4i, but now it's more of a preference in what you're looking for in a smartphone. With that, we have the comparison. Let us know what you think in the comment section below, and for more info, check out our written review at ng-reviews.com. Thanks for watching, guys.